leave the country, it's not about Republicans or Democrats, you're Americans first. And that's the relationship that America has with Israel. It's not partisan, it's a unique relationship.
Israel and the United States is not based upon partisan politics. This is about a sense of unity between our two countries and an acknowledgement of the commonality of our values.
Congress is a very human business, and to get things done, you need people to work together. So to be here in a foreign country to us, where we're just Americans, I think was really helpful.
Tom MacArthur and I had a chance to talk. It was just remarkable because we're both New Jersey, the size of Israel, and we're trying to say, how would we react if we were under constant pressure of being attacked? That takes a toll.
For Republicans and Democrats to walk together and listen to people together and then share with each other their impressions, their feelings is so valuable. What we share in common will only become more and more evident despite our diversity.
I think we need to go both get baptized at the same time, and maybe we can come out of the River Jordan with a whole new perspective on working together.
When you had two groups of folks that are ideologically opposed on most issues, to stand shoulder to shoulder and to look at the risk that Israel faces, it gives us all a chance to link arms and become stronger in our support for the state of Israel and for the Israeli people.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome former CNN anchor Frank Sesno.
Well, good morning, everybody. Very nice to wake up with 18,000 friends in the middle of Washington, D.C. I have had the great privilege of joining AIPAC for several years now in several stimulating discussions. And while the topics of those discussions have varied, there has been one thread that has remained the same, and that is this commitment to bipartisanship when it comes to this issue. And this is what we're going to discuss and see and visit this morning. So in that spirit, I'd like to welcome our next two guests to the policy conference stage, two leaders in Congress who exemplify what it means to stand on this issue together and across party lines. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy and House Democratic Whip Staney Hoyer. So as we've just seen in this video, both of you participated in the mission to Israel. This is not your first time doing it. I spoke in the introductions about the sense of bipartisanship. Tell us a little bit about your own story, what motivated you to travel to Israel and take the freshman class with you, what you get out of these trips. Congressman Hoyer.
Well, first of all, the first time I went to Israel was in 1976. My wife was still alive, and we had an extraordinary experience for 7 days. An experience that changed my life, changed my perspective, and I've been back 13 times since, in every decade.
From 1976 to now, what do you get out of it?
Well, I get something new out of it every time I go. And first of all, I tell people I get a revival out of it. I get a reinvigoration of my principles and of my commitment and how critically important the relationship between Israel and the United States is, and how we need to work very hard to make sure that it remains A, bipartisan issue, and B, effectively sending a message to the world that Israel's survival and security is a critical issue for the United States of America.
What do you get out of it?
first time I ever went, I wasn't in Congress, I was in the State Assembly, and we went on a bipartisan basis. And I knew my love for Israel, but I created a unique bond. You don't understand the size or the proximity or the threats or the challenges of what they're able to overcome. And it's such an emotional time, just that 1 week you're there. So we did something much different. When I became majority leader, I went down to Staney on the floor, and we actually talked very often. I said, why don't we do something different this year? Why don't we do it when we go overlap? Because when you leave this country, you're an American first. And you know the most unique thing, so Staney agreed right away, that's a great idea. Let's spend a couple days, Republicans and Democrats together while we're there. And you know where we went? We broke bread, we had lunch, but we went and stood before the Iron Dome, looking down to Gaza. And when you think, a lot of these are bipartisan votes of what we support, but there's a bond there that breaks parties, that understands Israel is our greatest ally, and if we are not supportive, where does that break the world?
We don't hear a lot about bipartisanship these days in this town. Is this the real deal on this issue?
First of all, I think there's more than you hear about, because confrontation is what you hear about. But having said that, Israel is unique, and the commitment to Israel, I think, is unique, and it bonds both Republicans and Democrats in common cause. And I think that was true yesterday, it's true today, and will be true tomorrow.
Just watch who the speakers are all coming. You've got everybody coming here on every side of the aisle, and I don't know of any other organization that can do that. But they all have the same mission too, that we know the bond between Israel and America has to be the strongest. Okay. And if it's not, we'll lose.
Let's dig in here for a few minutes. This is a region that is on fire. Across the region, it is more tumultuous, more unstable, more violent, more unpredictable than we have seen in many, many years. That being the case, what do each of you see as perhaps the most serious threat facing the region, and where do you see the Israeli-U.S. relationship addressing that?
Well, I think Iran is clearly the number one threat that exists. They clearly have a policy to impose hegemony on the region. They clearly want to be a power of which people are afraid. And clearly one of our major responsibilities, Israel's and the United States working together, is to assure that Iran, A, never gets a nuclear weapon. We've had controversy about that, but that commitment needs to remain strong. Vice President Biden talked about it last night. That needs to be our number one focus. It is interesting, however, in this time, it's a relatively unique time that the surrounding community now is having its own internal issues and are confronting one another as much as they're confronting Israel. And that, I think, is a change in circumstances, but it is a destabilizing effort in the Middle East, very dangerous.
Well, there's no doubt Iran, using their resources now to fund terrorism. They feel a new empowerment within the region. What we need to do is make sure our relationship is not only close, but that we work closely together, from cybersecurity to a military advantage. When Israel and America are strong, the world is more peaceful and the world is more stable. And we need to have a responsibility. When there is question and doubt, when Iran feels they have an advantage, as you notice, the world becomes destabilizing.
We have time for just one more question.
Very briefly, one of the things that I think is a reality that the surrounding world needs to know, the IDF and the Department of Defense are cooperating as closely today as they ever have. That needs to continue and to be expanded.
Very, very quickly here, we only have a couple of minutes left. With that, I want to ask you both, the U.S. and the Israeli governments are trying to wrap up this 10-year agreement, this memorandum of understanding to provide Israel security guarantees and support over the next decade. How will Congress respond to these conversations?
Well, Congress' responsibility would be to appropriate the money. And I will tell you from a bipartisan basis, there is more commitment, especially after the Iran agreement. Let's make a longer agreement here, a stronger agreement where there is no doubt Israel.
time now that our investment in Israel is an investment in our security. That premise needs to be maintained. Hopefully, we will achieve a new memorandum of understanding in the short term, and again, indicate the bipartisan consensus that we have in defense of Israel. That is an important message to send to the Middle East
And what is the
and to
time?
the world.
When do you think this will happen?
Sooner rather than better, and we need to make sure that Israel has what it needs to defend itself, remain secure and sovereign.
When you talk about this agreement, this arrangement, what is the most important component of it besides longer and stronger?
To me, is innovation and advantage. When Israel is strong, they will not be challenged. When they know the bond with America is strong, the world is safer. So if you want peace in the Middle East, the relationship with America and Israel has to be at its strongest and tightest, and cooperation beyond all.
Gentlemen, our time is up. I would say, however, that it is very encouraging to see that there is conversation across the aisle, and there is a place, an important place for bipartisanship.
Not only conversation, but cooperation.
Conversation.
And I will tell you this. The issue with Israel and America brings more bipartisan inside Congress. So it's only a helpful ability that we can work together, we stand on the stage together, and we travel to Israel together.